All right, well, we have a quorum of commissioners, so we'll start the meeting of the airport commission at 4:04 p.m. First item of business is the acknowledgement of the road commissioners. So Connor, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Connor Daly from Winooski.
Thank you, Connor. Next up is the agenda. Do we hear a motion to approve the contents of the agenda as proposed?
So moved.
That's moved by Robin. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of the agenda, please signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? The agenda. Next up is item 3. It's public forum. And so we have, if you haven't yet already signed up with Jesse for public forum, please do so. We'll begin with people who are present in the room, and then we'll move to online. Just a reminder, public forum, the purpose here is to present viewpoints, and it's not a dialogue between the commissioners or the airport staff. Members of the public are welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but public forum is the only portion in which the members of the public are welcome to share their viewpoints. Members will have 3 minutes to present their thoughts. My apologies, I have to cut somebody off who goes longer than 3 minutes. Please be sure that your comments do not duplicate with previous speakers, but rather provide additional insight and consideration. If you need your comment, please state your name, the town residence for the record, and please make sure that all remarks are respectful of everything that counts. So with that, we will begin with Jeff Nicholson.
My name is Jeff Nicholson. I reside in South Burlington, Vermont. I work here at the airport for American Airlines Piedmont. And I'm a member of the Communication Workers of America, unionized here. Those things inform my decision that I don't speak on behalf of any of them, only for myself. Last thing that I did before I came up here, I took a walk outside because you weren't started yet. And some guy came up to me and asked me which direction to walk in because he needed to go downtown. So I pointed him in the right direction. It's unfortunate that that's what he has to do to get downtown. And you guys know how I feel about that. I talked to some of our employees here. One of them says what he's going to try to do is walk down Williston Road and catch the #1 bus. I don't know exactly where the stop is in relation to the corner, but apparently somewhere at Williston Road you catch the #1 bus. That's a heck of a walk, and that's going to be a heck of a walk come winter time. And I would hope that for both the employees and our customers that some other arrangement could be made, but there's no public bus here. You guys have allowed this airport to become disconnected from the rest of the transportation system, with the exception of one bus that goes to Alton. And I think that's unfortunate. I hope you guys can work on that, and I hope we can come to a resolution soon before my friends have to walk through the snow to Williston Road to hope for a ride home.
Thank you, Jeff. All right, next up is Leslie Mencia.
Hello, my name is Leslie Mencia. I reside in Colchester. I do also work in the building, but I do live in Colchester. I just have a question. Where did everyone park today? Where'd you park today? They're not?
I rode my bicycle.
There you go. Well, I work here and have to clock in on time. Like, they're not gonna be like, oh, the parking is a problem. And I come to work half an hour early every day, no matter what. I had to go around 3 times and park literally on furthest parking spot or park in the garage, right? Because there's no parking, so it's either there or the garage. And then we argue with the people about letting us out, right? Because there's no parking, but we have to clock in. And my company is not going to say, okay, you're late because there's no parking. Also, imagine you working a 10 to 16 hour shift here at the airport because of delays and cancellations, and you walking out and finding your car not there. Because that's what they're doing. They're towing people's cars. You know how much it costs to get your car out of the tow? $120. We don't even make that a day here. So if we're going to be towing, maybe we should start with a warning, right? We have people's information, you come inside, we know everybody first and last name here. It's not a surprise, like we can figure out a different way than just towing people's cars. We also need 100 more chairs in the airport. Been saying that for the longest time. I said it like a couple meetings ago, and then I was told to not come to the meeting. By someone that works here. To not come to a public meeting. Which I thought was not okay, because it's a public meeting. But. Parking, I don't have $120 to pay towing. So I would prefer to not. That happen, right? Like, we need to know how many people are working per shift per airline. Maybe we can find out who's handicapped, right? Cause the handicap are the places that are available, right? Something, but would you wanna come outside and not have your car here? Right. Thank you.
Now, those are the only two we had sign up. Is there anyone who came in after sign up that wishes to speak at all at once? If so, you're welcome to come up to the chair. Please.
My name is Karen Cadino. I reside in Colchester. I don't have any connection to the airport. I'm not employed here. I'm simply speaking as a private citizen, not not attached to any particular group or organization. My reason for being here today is to request any information you may have regarding updates on ICE and this airport. If there's been any progress made, if there's been any additional information that you're able to share, I welcome that. It's a very important concern to me. It's one thing if we have due process taking place for the people who are coming through this airport. I respect the judicial system and any due process that is in place. But unless that's checked, I believe we have human trafficking coming through here, is my personal opinion. So, is there any updates since the last meeting we had with the public forum that you were able to share?
Yeah, this is a one-way communication.
Then that'll help.
Yeah, it's not because on the agenda later.
Okay, then.
All right, well then, that's the end of the comments, that's what's very important, and I do hope some progress is being made. Thank you for allowing me to say.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Hi, I'm Lee again. Couple updates from our end of things we've been observing as folks who have been here on the ground, keeping an eye out for ice transports. One is that this admin area back here behind this wall has been being used by ICE. We were here one morning and we witnessed one of the co-heads of TSA let ICE agents and prisoners in through the back door at the bottom near the loading dock where the smoking area is. And when we came around the side, looking towards the public entrance of TSA, it was all boarded up because it was before TSA had opened in the mornings, it was around 3 a.m. And so based on as much investigation as we could do as just, ordinary civilians, it seems pretty obvious that the TSA agent let the ICE officers come up the side staircase that's right on the other side of this wall, come out, and then it appears walk through the Burlington Airport admin area and then through the secure CETA door into the secure side of the airport. We never saw them go through official TSA screening, and it does seem like this is the airport and admin area. So when we've, been looking out for ICE agents, we've been told, oh, this is the airport office area. We were also told here that ICE wasn't supposed to be able to use the airport office area. So just wanted to let you all know that that was happening. Shouldn't be happening. Also seems pretty bad that anybody is being allowed to go through the secure CETA door without going through proper TSA. So wanted to let you know about that. Couple other things, we've been, connecting with folks, support people who have been moved through here. A lot of them, we still haven't been able to find where the people ended up. There's been a handful that we were able to track, and out of those, mostly because people have been able to connect with their lawyers in time, there have been a couple folks who have been able to get support and return home, but the vast majority of people who have been brought through this airport in the past couple of months are completely unaccounted for. So if that changes, I will let you know, but wanted you to know that yeah, over 100 people still missing. And likely far higher. So that's just some updates on our end. We've also been flyering a lot to let people know as customers what their rights are being on a plane if they see ICE or detainees. Yeah, so those are some updates from the community. Would love to hear updates from you all about what you all are doing. Thanks.
Thank you, Lee.
I just want to add one thing to what Leaf said. My name is Julie. I live in Burlington. I was on a call with the Mayor Mulvaney Stanek's chief of staff a couple of days ago, and she mentioned to me that more doors had been secured at the airport, including this one. And we have found that that is definitely not the case. So.
All right, anyone else who wishes to speak in the public forum who's physically present? Please, go on.
Hi, my name is Aspen. I live in Burlington. I just want to add my voice to say that the community say that I to say that the community it wants more from the airport on the issue of ICE. And also I want to personally say that it's incredibly disappointing to hear the lack of response from Director Longo towards any of our recommendations. We've received functionally radio silence. Despite a month ago at the meeting, you saying you want to meet with us, you had action items you want to meet with us about. It's incredibly disappointing that you have not sufficiently followed up. And you haven't even tried, in spite of several follow-up emails, including one sent by Julie at 4 a.m. at the airport doing an airport advocate shit, doing a shift out of being an airport advocate. And so I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
I'm sorry. No, you've finished your. That's okay. Anyone else present? Okay, so we'll move to online, so if you can promote people as needed.
Yeah, I don't have anybody signed up
Oh.
for the sign up.
Okay.
Unless
Maybe they didn't school.
that's,
Okay.
unless you want to give there's there's about 6 people.
So if anyone's attending this meeting online and wishes to participate in the public forum, if you could please use the raise your hand feature of Zoom, so we know that you have something you wish to say.
Everybody saw that.
All right, so with no show of hands, we will close down public forum. We'll move on to item 4, which is the consent agenda. Do you have a motion to approve the contents of the consent agenda as proposed?
So
And it's moved by Robin, so second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Move on to item 5, which is the construction update from Larry.
Good afternoon, everybody. Quick updates from my update. The Park and Bridge maintenance, the expansion joint project, which a little history on that started before COVID. Contractor mobilized and because of restrictions during COVID, had to leave and we finally rebid it about a year and a half ago. And it's now complete. So the expansion joint between the newer parking garage and old garage is now complete finally. The environmental assessment that we're doing with respect to the obstruction removal on the approaches of 1, 3, and 5, 5 has been complete. They dropped it from an EA to a CADX, and the final signature from Nick was completed, and we're just waiting for the final document to come back from the FAA. The obstruction removal I'll discuss under another point. The we have moved forward with some schematics and preliminary cost estimates for the South Concourse replacement project, similar to the North Concourse replacement project or project next, because of some potential funding that's been identified. So we've just done some schematics and some cost estimates, and Marie's working on that angle as far as the funding right now, as far as identifying it before the deadlines, what we might need in the future to do those projects. The SRE building is complete as far as design, and permitting is just about complete, and we anticipate bidding that project by the end of the month. The Burlington Tech Center, which moved from our permitting process work to the school, is ongoing. It's not complete. It was supposed to be done by August 15th. Right now, they're working towards October. There have been some delays and things that were found that weren't identified in the design that they had to take care of, and it's delayed them some. So that's the update on that project. The FAA CIP for FY 26 and 5 years beyond. We did receive notice from the FAA. We are meeting with them on September 17th, the leadership team here to discuss that. I've sent out my preliminary sheet to the leadership team for their input. This is just my vision. When they get back to me, I'll update it, and then we'll approach the FAA with our plans. It's very aggressive, just like the last 5-6 years. We will report more detail on that in the October meeting once we give their feedback and we really know what we're gonna move forward and not. And we do have our priorities, as we've reported before, what those are. South Apron project, there were some tie downs that weren't finished last year and a little bit of cleanup. The tie downs are now complete, and that project is complete. We received a grant last year for egress lanes, additional ones for each the north and south concourse for egressing. However, after it was issued, it's been determined that funding, the items that are eligible don't rise to the amount of money we need to really do the project. So we're gonna have to turn that grant and figure out how we're gonna move forward with those new egress lanes. So that grant will go back. Project next, we just received the new grant that includes the jet bridges and the preliminary renovation of the second floor. Runway 1533, the big project for the summer, will be complete with grooving on this Thursday night. Will be the last of the grooving, then final markings will go down and will be finished on budget and on time per what was planned. Taxiway Charlie G Rehab that we applied for a grant for. We received the grant. A notice of award is being sent to Pike Industries for that contract, and we will proceed with the contract for a spring start on that project next year. The Threshold Bar project that ended up being part of the Runway 1533 project is complete, with exception to we have some rips out there on the edges that we are going to be resolving over the next couple weeks with pavement adjustments. So that project will be complete. It's been flight checked by the FAA and everything seems okay. So that's another thing down. And that's all I have for today on that, unless anybody has any questions for me.
Thank you, Larry. Commissioners, any questions for Larry?
Just going back to the Burlington, yeah, Burlington Technical Center, I know this isn't us, it is them. But are they working with you for updates to let you know where the other are the projects?
We take part every week in their weekly call, because there's always items we have to assist with or respond to from either engineering or operations. So we know what's going on every week there, and we make site visits.
Yeah.
So they are in relatively good shape down there, they're just finalizing some things.
And has there been any update of when they move to their new quarters, what happens to their old quarters?
I have no idea.
Yes, so. Two things, one, the building that they're constructing is still our building, so all
Yeah,
those
yeah, yeah.
infrastructure improvements are still owned by us at the
Yeah.
end of the day. The location of their old space, which is in the lower hangars, as you know. Is being negotiated for a different
Okay.
lease, which is the same leaseholder as the one next door, Arrow.
Mhm. And does look like they're on. For October, we still closing the runway at night?
Excuse me?
Are we still closing the runway at night?
Oh, yeah.
And so we're not
Yeah.
done with.
No,
I
no, the
thought-
grooving has to be finished and all the painting has to be finished, so we're so close. Through, is it September what day? 19th, September 19th, 18th.
Silly. That's it.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks. For the runway project, you're still gonna see the airline schedule reflect that 11:45 closure for a little bit of time. It's not directly September 19th. That it'll revert back to the midnight and beyond flights, but eventually it will.
Oh.
And we'll work with the corporate offices to make sure that happens.
So in that instance, Nick, if the plane is scheduled for 1:45, currently it can't land.
Correct.
If it's after September 19th, but still scheduled for 11:45, are they come in?
Yes, and that's all published in what's called the notice to air mission. Pilots know this, the corporate airlines, headquarters know this, so that. Not only schedule beyond 11:45, but if there's a delay of the departure airport, they can still land.
Go ahead.
Yeah, wait, quick question for Larry, just this is out of pure curiosity. What expansion joints does the parking garage use? Do you know?
If you drive up there, there's the older garage, the 2-story, and then there's the 5-story. Between the two, there's an expansion joint.
Yeah.
Okay, that decayed or over years of salt, not everything else and water, and that's
Yeah.
totally been replaced. So if you go up there, you'll see a new joint with new plastic, new everything. What does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just curious, is it rubber?
Yeah,
Is
Excuse me?
it like neoprene or rubber?
Yeah, some of it, yes. And
Okay.
concrete and steel, it's a combination of all three things.
Okay, that was pure curiosity. Thanks.
Yeah, it is rubber though, the main thing in between that comes, yeah, but the construction includes steel, concrete, and
Yeah.
other stuff, yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, Commissioner, anything else for Larry? All right, we're good.
Am I up again next or?
Yes, you're right, yes. So now
Is that
you're-
next?
Now you're for item 6.
Okay, sound and noise update, and phase 1 closing, we finally got all the final change orders and submittals done for phase 1, which needs to be closed out in the next couple of months. Madison's done the draft for that to get that project closed out. Phase 2 will follow that because we're complete with that. Phase 3, this report again was done a few weeks ago before I went on vacation. By September 15th, phase 3, the 52 homes, minus the people who changed their minds, will be complete. And on September 18th, phase 4 will start construction of the 15 homes. We had the kickoff FAA required pre-construction meeting on phase 4 today. I did have in here that would start in October, is now starting on September 15th. So the other, and I apologize again, I left in a hurry. I left out that one chart and graph. I'll have it updated next month. One big update is we came for you and it's now between Board of Finance and City Council to receive up to 4 grants totaling up to $8 million for residential sound installation program. We were notified in the last few weeks that we were identified for approximately $7.3 million, which required us to go through a whole nother process. We have finished that process and we anticipate that we will receive a grant before the end of September, the federal fiscal year, which right now is estimated for sound insulation for approximately 58 homes, which puts us back on track to where we were before we had the window manufacturer bankruptcy and the change in the acoustical testing. Our goal is to get 58 homes bid by spring, and that's the goal. Worst case, it would be ready to 2, but we're shooting to get them all out. And that allows us to look forward to what we do with the FAAs, so it's next year. We already have the funding for the design and all that for these 58 homes, and the acoustical is finished. So that's the good news. You know, everybody on the team worked hard to secure that money, and we're just waiting to get it so they can sign it and we can get going. So that's it. I think that's anything. All right, cool.
All right, Commissioner, thank you for Larry on this topic.
Just one question. It seems to me, a few meetings ago when we were talking about this, that there was either a business or a school or something in Winooski that had reached out about sound. Or did I just make that up? In my head?
Well, businesses don't qualify and schools do, but
Okay, so business, that was actually. the
Yeah,
question.
yeah.
Businesses don't qualify because we would have to do.
Yeah.
Every business in the world.
Yeah.
But schools do. Is there specific, is it like K through 12, state schools, public schools? Is there any kind of?
Public, right?
Not necessarily, no, not just public, so it's defined as educational facilities or also places of worship are eligible as well. It's a very specific appendix in the FAA regulations that goes with each eligible property, whether it's residential all the way to the educational facility, so it doesn't have to be just public schools.
Yeah.
That would be eligible. I don't recall any that, I'm sure there are some in Winooski, but I'm not sure who's.
I did report a couple months ago on our next outreach, which is 240 units, and more than half of them were in Winooski, but I don't recall one being a school, but
Okay.
we can check on that. So, yeah.
And it would still follow the same criteria of initial eligibility, right? You have to be part of that, one of those categories.
Yeah.
But then you have to also follow the higher noise DNL contour lines as we work our way out to the eligible next one.
Thank you.
That's it.
Just a quick question, in the event that we're going back out to bid. And revising this. In the event that the prices come in higher, first of all, is that your sense, given all the turmoil that we've had, the pricing to complete is given absolutely?
It's funny what's going on. We have actually seen an improvement in pricing on one side of things. We don't know how those prices are gonna come back next time, because they went up the last time because it was a smaller package, we believe. And we're hoping with a larger package, I anticipate the pricing per unit will come down. We're also moving into the 65 to 69 DNL line, which does not require wallboard, which should help bring the costs down. So we're hoping to get more. We're only estimating 58. If we can do more, we will. If the costs come in more than or less than the 58, then we'll have to do less. But then we also have the year coming up with the FAA funding, so we'll figure all that out moving forward. So, yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Alright, so let's move on now to item 7, which is the director's report. Oh, sorry, Jesse, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
You're up.
I don't really have much unless folks have questions. We just had 3 more comments about noise in August. But in addition to the written report, don't have much more to add. Do you guys have any questions?
Richard,
I had one, but I forgot it because you said.
well, now she changed.
Please stay.
Again, my apologies, Jesse. Let's move on to item 7, which is the director's report. Nick.
Jesse's gonna throw it on the screen real quick, but I always like to start with Project Next updates, considering it's one of the largest, both financially and potentially physically project that we've had at the airport ever. All the wood, like Larry has reported in the past, is installed. Is completely installed, so all that mass timber is now ready to go. They're putting roofing on. You can actually see new windows are being installed in the side area, as well as some of the interior walls and spaces. All the way up to the 3rd floor deck, which would be the new observation area or public access. area and new event center as well, which is unbelievably exciting. We're having some challenges with the geothermal, and we're still digging and working out some of those issues. Right now, it's not causing significant delays. Yeah, but the geothermal is a high priority for us to make sure it's continuing in that direction. Everything else is, I'm very happy, very proud, very satisfied with the contractors, the engineers, and our incredible team to make sure that we're on track and continuing to make the decisions, which right now are the details. Kind of speakers are we gonna be putting in, what kind of toilets, and some of the very, very, very specific details that are just as important. We continue our advocacy with the state and at the state level for all sorts of projects and funding. Last week, we had Lieutenant Governor John Rogers come to the airport. There's a couple of pictures of us at the Vermont Air National Guard, which is part of our conversation that we have, not just with senior leadership at the state level, but also legislators, to make sure they understand how our budget works, where our funding comes from, how our particular federal funding arrives, and of course the local shares that we are obligated for, but also how much we save, and especially in the case of the Vermont Air National Guard Fire Department. This is a big part of our conversations, that an advantage, to be honest, of not spending or adding in our budget that you see every year for the expense of firefighting services, which of course is $0 for us. So it's a great conversation and a great learning conversation that we have in this particular case with the Lieutenant Governor. So Larry touched on this in his report too, but I wanted to highlight it again because this isn't just a couple of months worth of work. This is a couple of years worth of work that has come to fruition. If you recall, the Department of Defense in years prior had put out an appropriations of about $18 million specifically for guard units or reserve units at a civilian use airport. Last year, we applied for all $18 million of that appropriation. Again, keep in mind, this is nationwide appropriation of $18 million. We didn't receive any. We put in one single grant and we did not get selected for any of it. Unfortunately, because of the way the appropriations was written, they couldn't negotiate a lower amount. So therefore, there was about $10 million remaining that they never awarded last year that we were able to reapply for this year. I'm very happy to say that we were selected this year, and that's a lot of the work of Madison and Larry to not just apply for one grant, but we applied for half a dozen. Yeah, 6 total grants split into smaller quantities to make sure that our scoring criteria was higher to receive at least one grant. We applied for a total of $9 million. They selected about 4.5 of our grants for a total amount of 7.3, just over $7.3 million. All of this comes to the airport specifically for construction of residential sound insulation. So those numbers that Larry was sharing, those approximately 58 homes that we're able to now proceed with construction of sound insulation materials, is above and beyond the FAA amount that we receive every single year. So this really does push us ahead on our residential sound insulation program. And again, it's not a 100% grant, so we still have a 10% share of the project. So really, we're talking about an $8.1 million project on top of the millions, over 20, I think 20 or $25 million of existing grants that we have open right now for installation. And then every year we apply for approximately $5 million. This is also on top of the community bike path and the separation of residential and industrial commercial area to make sure, essentially in perpetuity, that there's a delineation of noise barriers between these two very different uses of land zones. When you drove in or as you drove in, you may have noticed that there's a lot of construction happening across the street. And that's part of about $1 million upgrade to the park-like area out back or out front. Designed for a multi-use bike walk path for the community, separating those areas and encouraging people to use that public land. That should be completed in a couple weeks, 2 months.
It'll be done by
By the season, yeah. A little bit of a highlight from Heritage Aviation, that there are fixed base operator providing all sorts of different services, but over the last month in August, they supported 2 really large groups coming to the airport. COPA and Gamma, there's always acronyms in the aviation field. COPA is the Cirrus Owners and Pilots Association. Cirrus is a manufacturer of a particular aircraft. And then the Gamma is the General Aviation Manufacturers Association. So there's lots of owners and pilots and other aircraft that come into the airport, utilizing Heritage's services, looking at our space, getting hotel rooms, enjoying Burlington and the surrounding area, and of course using the airport for their event and lots of their services. So you can see just in these pictures, there's quite a few airplanes that have landed on the field. Couple of big and small events coming to the airport. You may recognize some of these items on the left-hand side for city council. You have seen these items as action items. I just wanted to give you an update of status of those. Specifically these 3 items, Deputy Director, the OLDCC grant, the one that I just talked about, that still does have to go to the city council for approval, as well as an updated TSA and General Services Administration lease agreement. These all passed our next step, which is the Board of Finance, and the final step is City Council on the 8th. The really important one is the Deputy Director of Business Administration is vital to our next steps. We're negotiating and having conversations with more tenants than it seems in prior years, which is fantastic, not just for non-aeronautical revenue sources, but of course our airfield and aeronautical revenue sources. And that takes time, that takes negotiation and time. And right now, me and I'm delegating as much as I can are performing those negotiations, but I really do need to delegate that to our designated representative, which would be the 2nd Deputy Director. Dave is still our Deputy Director of Aviation Operations, but this would be more aligned with customer service, customer experience, some of our maintenance team, as well as helping with negotiations of our grant agreements. Once that passes on September 8th, we're going to be posting it on September 9th, so it's going to be happening really quick. In future agenda items, you're also going to see, once we complete some of our conversation and negotiation, Vermont Flight Academy lease agreement extension, Hangar Condo Association, which is smaller hangars on the airfield, an extension and an upgrade of some sustainable infrastructure improvements that they want to put in. And then some 3 future events. Next week, Jeff and I are on the road, the 9th through the 12th. We're out in Salt Lake City visiting with Breeze to just a status check. How are we doing? How can we improve? And what future things are happening with Breeze and TV coming down the pipeline. This is a one-on-one multi-day conference just with Breeze Airlines, and we'll be meeting with the owner of Breeze as well as his senior leadership team one-on-one to get a better idea of what I hope to announce as future improvements. This coming Sunday, VTANG, Vermont Air National Guard, has their open house. They haven't had one in a couple of years, expecting thousands of visitors to the airport and to the Vermont Air National Guard. We'll have some presence over there with our big snow equipment, which we actually just got delivery of 3 of the 4 new pieces of equipment that we ordered this year. So we'll have some of our really nice big snow equipment over there. And then Alex and Jeff and Dave and lots of other people have been working tirelessly on a new initiative that we have already advertised, which is the Fly by 5K, which is going to be a 5K race on the actual airport. We are going to be closing down one of our small runways. This is in collaboration with South Burlington Parks and Rec and ourselves. And we'll be on September 20th, so just a couple of weeks to get your training in. We already signed up all of the commissioners to this. And it's a new.
Relay.
It's a new initiative. This is something new for us that, you know, we've done some events like this on the airfield. Jeff's, I think, first week here, first couple months here was our solar eclipse event, but those happen to be on smaller segments of our airfield. This one, of course, takes up a little bit more space. Maybe not as much time, but a little bit more space in utilizing our secondary runway for an hour or two. Seemed like a really great initiative, not just for advertising the airport, but for supporting the community and surrounding area. And our partners at South Burlington as well.
Isn't it a? It's a fundraiser, right, for food, I mean, not fundraiser, it's a food shopping, that's also a donation.
I don't think so. I think it's just a 5K series that the Parks and Rec puts on.
This will be the final of the year.
Yeah.
How it sorts.
Yeah, I think, I did sign up, I think they got some good.
Donation. That's. A couple of stats for you. You can see our scheduled departures and our projection for the rest of the year. Looks somewhat similar to last year. We have a little bit, right now on the schedule anyways, a little bit of a dip in September, which is more consistent with our seasonal nature throughout the year. But again, another big uptick in October, which we're expecting some more record numbers. We don't see exactly the height of October that we saw last year, but it's pretty close. And if you recall, last year was the highest October we've ever seen in the history of the airport. Almost 160,000 passengers total at just that 1 month. As far as scheduled seats, our baseline for looking at our projections, not only are we seeing slightly higher load factors compared to national averages, we're definitely seeing higher average seat capacity on each particular plane. Some bigger planes, fuller planes. And throughout the rest of the year, we're still looking at a record of close to 900,000 outbound only seat capacity. These aren't filled seats, this is just seat capacity, which we haven't seen in close to a decade. Certainly higher than prior years, but also higher than 2019, which is one of our what I might call a normal benchmark that we use to get back to pre-COVID. We're certainly past pre-COVID numbers, 2019. Last fiscal year, we ended the fiscal year with a record number that we haven't seen since fiscal year 2009. And that's just shy of 720,000 outbound passengers. This year we're looking at again, that's a fiscal year number. These numbers are summed in calendar years. So we're looking at almost 20,000+ additional outbound passengers. This screen is only outbound passengers. Definitely higher than 2019, higher than last year. And our latest numbers, we're still calculating our August numbers, but our latest July numbers at 72,000 is also the highest since 2008, 2009. So this would be the 5th month this calendar year that we've exceeded all numbers since 2008, 2009. So we're looking very, very, very strong, and we still have high numbers. You can see October projected 2025 numbers is 73 compared to 76,000 outbound passengers last year. So we're looking very strong, and as we continue working with the airlines, the corporate real estate departments, as well as the corporate network planners, we're seeing not just a strong 25, but really good projections for 26 and beyond. And that's what I have for you today.
Great. Yes.
Good.
How do our statistics, passage statistics, load factors, et cetera, compare to other peer
Yeah,
airports?
yeah, good question. That benchmark 2019 is used a lot in peer airports, as you can imagine. So a lot of airports are looking at that just to get to the recovery of that. Some are there, some are not. When we say we're not only past the 2019, but we're over a decade. Yeah, over a decade of increases. Yeah, let me rephrase that. We exceeded over a decade of those numbers, meaning highest numbers since 2008, 2009. That is not what the other airports are looking at. And 2008, 2009 is still a benchmark out in the industry because of the recession and all that. After that 2009, a lot of airports dipped, as we did too.
Right. Was that the year of like 744?
That's right. No, the highest number was about 750, 700. Yep, that's exactly right. And that was fiscal year 2009. So end of 2008, half of 2009.
Right.
I heard them talking about the. We're still down on numbers in the state of Vermont for tourism from Canada. Do we have a way of sort of knowing what percentages that it looks like we haven't really lost, or we gained, or we have lost it?
Yeah. Not
30%.
It-
It's like tourism.
It was for us.
tourism for Vermont.
Oh,
for the state
gotcha,
of Vermont.
for Vermont.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at our peak periods of time, we were probably in that range, 20 to 30% Canadian travelers.
Yeah.
What's interesting is we're still hitting these record numbers, but our only real way of looking at Canadian travelers, well, any travelers outside of the state of Vermont, is looking at license plates and taking ratios based off of that.
Right.
So we don't know exactly, and our system isn't quite up to speed. Thank you for allowing us to upgrade the system, because that will.
That's
We're
gonna
gonna
add
add
a
to
ton.
track that,
Right.
not just from Canada, but how many are from New York, how many from New Hampshire, et cetera. You know, we'll still have to take some ratios and assumptions based off of those numbers and car load factors and things like that. But it'll give us that percentage that we're looking for. I would say we're definitely lower.
Yeah.
And that obviously we're very much looking forward to the return of Canadian travelers.
Right.
But that will only increase.
Increase what we already have.
Yeah.
Do we have a way that we show, because we know we're bringing in bigger airplanes that carry more people, right? So do we have data that shows the difference between how many, flights versus people that we moved? Because you have a passenger statistic, right? But we don't know how many airplanes it took to move them. So what I'm suggesting is I think we actually have less airplanes moving more people because we're using bigger airplanes.
Yeah, so if you look in the, I forgot what the title is, but maybe 2 slides prior to that. Scheduled departures, so those are aircraft outbound
Specific.
numbers. Yeah, so those are the quantity, and
So
you're
we have-
absolutely right, that number is declining.
Right.
And our passengers are going up.
Actually easier for you.
It is. A larger aircraft brings different challenges, I would say, right?
Yeah.
Door heights or sill heights are different,
Just-
is ADA requirements.
Right.
Wingspan requirements might take up 2 spaces versus 2 regional jets. And that's one of the really important pieces of this new terminal, is making sure that the flexibility of designing that building for both regional carriers, not just on the ADA compliance of new jet bridges, but also on the width of and length of the aircraft. But also, all of those jet bridges will have the capability of mainline wide-bodied aircraft as well.
Right, and it's also a little bit more vulnerable because you have to fill it. Right, so for just, market share or what they're gonna do, if they can't fill 150 passenger, then they might cancel, right? Whereas if you have 2 smaller airplanes that they can fill, that's an easier stay. I mean,
Right,
So-
and looking at it holistically. When an airline schedules those aircraft, they're looking at the data to support filling those larger aircraft. But you're right, we don't want it to return. We want to make sure that we're filling. That's why we have such an amazing marketing team to make sure that we help where we can.
Commissioners, anything else for you?
Oh, one last question. Since I signed up for my 5K, there is some question on the airport is 1, 5, and 3, 3 are gonna stay open. So that means 200 people, because it's blocked at 200, are going to be running laps around 1, 9, and 3, 3 because it is not 3.2 miles.
It is not 3 points.
So are we gonna, is it running along?
No.
So it's gonna be closed.
It will, yeah, our small runway 119 will be closed, but it will be.
The packing way.
It'll actually be in the airport, it'll go out of the airport for a little bit, come back into the airport, out on the runway, so.
So
It
it
will
comes on
not,
the
there will be one, little end on the runway.
Ends on the
To
runway.
motivate you to get to the end of this.
You better be waiting.
I will be waiting, I will not be running.
I just got a student who's a track star from UVM, 4.1 minutes. I expect him might be a little faster. All right, cool, thank you.
Commissioners, anything else? Connor, do you have anything? Okay, we'll move on to.
Nope, all right. Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't see you. So now we move on to item 10, which is a discussion regarding immigration and customs enforcement at the airport. So the first. Did I say 10?
Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Yes, hey, Commissioner Reynolds, conversation regarding immigration and customs enforcement at the airport. So the purpose of this is just to have a conversation. I know that we've heard a lot of testimony over the last 3 months. We appreciate all of the input we've received from the public. We've had different commissioners present at different meetings. So we wanted to have the opportunity for commissioners to ask Nick any questions that they have. If Nick has any updates that he wants to make, he is welcome to do so certainly. So why don't we start, you want to go first, Nick? Okay.
Yeah.
Any updates you have would be great.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is obviously something that we've been working with and changing as much as we possibly can. I wanna start out by saying we have to follow the law. Everything we do, we have to follow the law. And there's so many nuances and challenges and complexities to this situation. And we've released a lot of information both from our legal counsel as well as FAA documentation and working with folks at their request, and I do communicate as much as I possibly can, and I have over the last month. And I continue to work with both the chief of staff of the mayor's office, and I look forward to an upcoming meeting that we're planning to identify any areas of improvement or changes or requests. I think over the last couple of months, as I've reported in the past, we have changed some things. We've added more signage. We've engaged more with human trafficking. Like I mentioned in the past, all of our restrooms on the back of the stalls have now more communication regarding reporting human trafficking. We are looking at closing doors where it is inappropriate for anybody to be using, and certainly including today's testimony. Those doors aren't as easy as just locking a door. There's fire code, there's crash bar systems that we have to analyze, and it does cost both time and funding to accomplish. But I assure you, those are happening to make sure that proper channels are being used to access this airport. As far as law enforcement accessibility to the airport, that's something me and my team are not involved in. Law enforcement doesn't report to us or come through us to both check in, identify a firearm that might be flown or a detainee that might be flown. However, there's other federal entities that might be engaged with those law enforcement companies or agencies that will go through proper procedure to enter the sterile spaces or the secured spaces of our airport. We have additional signage that is being printed now to identify those particular doors. We've actually installed signage on almost every single one of our doors throughout the last 4 or so months. And this was prior to us even having conversations about specifically ICE engagement here at the airport. And we've also signed memorandums of understanding going back to the human trafficking with the Department of Transportation, called the Blue Light Initiative, to make sure that we're even more engaged, not just with signage, because signage is important, but training, I think, is even more important. And that Blue Light Initiative through the DOT will allow that higher engagement, not just with me and my staff, but also with all staff, any employee that works at this airport. We currently do require training with human trafficking anytime somebody gets a side badge. But this would elevate that training even further. And again, I'll leave it with that. There are so many elements of research, so many pieces of engagement that made me think about changes to this airport. So many engagements with other airports and other colleagues of mine at those airports to identify strengths and weaknesses at those particular locations. But again, I'll leave you with, we have to follow the law. There are very specific things that we do. There's legal counsel that we get, legal counsel that you get, to make sure that each one of these steps is appropriate, is moving forward in the right direction, is safe, is following local code or fire code if that's the case, and identifying any improvements that we can do. This is something that we don't necessarily agree with either, nor do we cooperate or collaborate or any of that with the Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And we do understand the complexities and challenges, and we want to be right there to make sure that we make those changes again where we can, if it's in our authorization to make those changes, and of course if it's a legal way to approach these.
Thank you. Commissioners, questions or comments for Nick or Jennifer?
Quick question, you mentioned signage, some of the content in bathroom stalls, what does the signage consist of with the doors? Is that anything different? What's the sort of nature of the content on doors?
Yeah, many of them are gonna identify restricted areas or staff areas only. And slightly different than this conversation, but that was intended to make sure that if there was an approach of a federal agency to access behind the scenes spaces without a warrant, that these spaces are not allowed to be used. You can't go through those doors or access, an interview with our staff or other staff through a space that is a restricted zone, unless there's obviously a legal method to do so. In future locations, it'll continue to say that no access, no entrance, no restricted area or employee only areas. And then those will be locked as well after we identify ways for proper egress, which is very important, of course. Behind the stall doors and throughout the airport, those are specific to human trafficking. Those were identified again through the Department of Transportation. That has very specific language on how to report human trafficking. And under the request of folks, we actually did put that in different languages as well, and posted those throughout the backside of the stall doors.
What is the difference now? Airports have had law enforcement presence moving people for all kinds of different reasons for a really long time. And as an airline pilot, we've had people on airplanes. What's different now?
Yeah, I agree. I think this isn't a new thing, right? There's always been deportations that have happened and maybe through this airport and certainly other airports, charter operations versus regular commercial operations. I think it's certainly exacerbated through a lot of the research, which I think is super helpful because that is That is something that we identified, that was shared with us, that was identified. That not just with, very local and possibly one of the only federal women's detention center in the area that might exacerbate those numbers, as well as potentially even some decreases in funding to a court in Massachusetts that no longer processes as many deportation lawsuits. That might not cause more out of this airport necessarily, but causes more air travel deportations to a location, state court that has the ability to process deportation lawsuits. So I think there is a change in the maybe say Northeast that has caused more deportations, and certainly the numbers that we see through your research has definitely shown.
So the public's been helping us.
Yes.
Thanks, job, public. I think it's a concern in our communities. And, I'm glad that the airport is really taking this seriously. It's everywhere in the airport. I'm all over it. And, the one thing that I've had a lot of human traffic training in all of my different hats that I wear. And the one thing I've never been able to figure out is how does that person have a phone when they're in the bathroom?
Well, this is
Like,
the
it always
signage.
says call the number,
Right.
or it has like, I'm like, they seem to be pretty old.
And that's why we thought maybe the back of the bathroom stalls was more discreet if they were able to make that
Right.
communication. Or if somebody else
Else
could
could make
follow that and make that communication or identify it. Potentially more discreet.
Okay,
Or not.
I think a lot of it has to do with, that's the only time that they may be separated, but.
Oh, sure, yeah, I got that part, I was just like. Still so hard. Yeah, identification is huge.
Related to that question, are you aware of, or you seen evidence of, any increase in legal representation that is available at the airport more broadly?
No, and we've explored that and tried to identify paths, and we're through the mayor's office and through myself have spoken with our federal delegation. I've spoken with other legal advocacy groups. I think it's really challenging right now because of the quantity of cases out there. That I think is really challenging to also stand up another legal advocacy presence at a facility like this.
Yeah, I don't ask
I
that
think
question suggesting that that's the role of the airport, but that could be the role of advocacy groups.
Yeah.
And they were legal representatives, et cetera, so just.
When we started talking about it as the role of the airport, I don't think that's our role as an airport or a municipality necessarily to provide that legal representation. However, this is a public use airport, so that availability of public representation is absolutely allowed.
But no evidence of that existing, for these early morning flights, et cetera.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have seen groups out there, as I've been in and out of the airport, and, my just view is that they've been very well received by the public. There hasn't, no one's in the way, no one's, having a problem getting through TSA, and people are just taking information. So it's really seem to be any problem as far as air travel, especially earlier. Forgive me if I missed it, but did we have to, or did the airport have to create a new policy, given the amount of people that potentially could be moved through the airport, or is this, we are just posting what our policy is? Or publishing, or like, this is not something that's usually in the public eye, this is what we do, this is how we've always done it.
For human trafficking, or I guess for
Or
both.
law enforcement, like anybody being moved. Not human trafficking under its blue definition here.
Well, yeah, so I think there's two things that I'm thinking of. One is a new policy that is drafted regarding ICE operations.
That,
But it's not a policy at this point, it's not a policy identifying. If members of the public are being detained by ICE, it's a policy for city staff. Specifically, if ICE approaches this airport and enters the airport and asks to go to a restricted space or
Gotcha.
ask one of my employees.
Sure,
Questions,
and I think, sure.
that's right, things under control. The human trafficking has been part of our grants and our grant conditions for a long time. So those have always been out there. We've had documentation both on website, in paper, throughout the airport, but this is definitely a much larger awareness of it and physical posting of it throughout the airport. And the blue light initiative, that's not a requirement, that's a choice that we've made to partner with the DOT to again ramp up that training initiative. We also work with the American Association of Airport Executives and Airport Council International and they are also researching to identify any other advocacy that they can do to support our efforts without crossing legal lines to help with situations like this, both from human trafficking and for ICE operations. But we are not the only airport. Many airports are experiencing that and not happy with that, as we are not. And just to make sure, in our grant documentation, in everything that we sign, it does specifically say that we must coordinate, shoot, is that the word? Cooperate and not impede in ICE operations. There is a preliminary injunction case, Duffy versus California, I think it is. Duffy is the Secretary of Transportation that forced some of this language into grant documentation. So there is a lawsuit. Vermont is a plaintiff state to that lawsuit. That doesn't mean that also now allows us not necessarily to cooperate with ICE, but we still cannot impede in ICE operations without civil or criminal penalties. So that's a very important distinction. Also, the distinction is this is a preliminary injunction. Those can change very fast, and the legal dynamic nature of this case and the complexity of this situation can change has changed very quickly.
Connor, do you have anything?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you. Just taking notes.
So Nick, I have a few things. Can you remind us all what, we talk a lot about human trafficking. Can you remind us what our obligations and limitations are in that respect for airport personnel?
So I'm not sure the limitations part, but our obligation as identified in our grants is mostly related to signage and training. Those are kind of the two big pieces. And it's not just training for internal staff, but training and signage throughout the airport environment, specifically the terminal. Yeah, not sure what you mean by limitation.
So if an airport employee suspects that there might be human trafficking, what can they not do? What are they allowed to do and what are they not allowed to do?
So locally, there's a couple of things. We have, if there's an employee, we always have our airport police number on the back of all of our badges or our office right here. So the Burlington Police Department can be notified of that right away. Currently or separately, you can also report that on the phone number that we have listed on that communication throughout the airport. And that will go through the proper channels to identify both with local law enforcement and potentially beyond to make sure that that is handled appropriately in the law enforcement atmosphere. I don't think there will be any limitations. Reporting it, I think, is the most important piece to police or to or to 911 if it's perceived as a real emergency, absolutely,
And we always have local police on airport site,
that's correct.
right? So it's not gonna be a matter of time, like they're getting on an airplane and we're suspicious,
Correct.
right? It's not gonna be a matter of time.
Yeah, not just local police here, but also mutual aid response and some of us to respond.
We had a number of comments at last month's meeting about Bradley Airport was doing something differently than some of the airports. I'm curious if you had a chance to check in with Bradley. What's happening there?
Yeah, not directly from the BDL Bradley Airport, but through some of the Connecticut Airport Authority programs, and not as senior of an official that I would like to have heard from yet. I think there's a couple of airports in Connecticut, both through the Connecticut Airport Authority as well as private companies that are also experiencing similar challenges, not just in commercial operations, airline commercial operations, but also more prevalent in charter operations with specific airlines, meaning that one aircraft is chartered entirely to Homeland Security or whatever federal agency. And there's been a lot of conversation happening there, not at Bradley, but at mostly Tweed Airport. Very similar in Portland, Maine. I think that I've had lots of conversations with the airport director at Portland Jetport. Very similar situations with both, and we both collaborate on some of the things we're doing concurrently and separately. That would allow us to share those ideas, implement those ideas. So I think signage and some of the things that I just talked about today, some of those did come from Portland, some came from here, some came from conversations. So there's lots of different avenues, but I think Portland, both with similar size and similar operations specific to commercial airline operations versus charter. We're not aware of any charter operations happening at this airport.
We talked a little bit about the side door access last week, but apparently there's maybe another entry, and I don't know if you knew that for this meeting or not, but and obviously we're doing what we can, we have to fire code and, you know, allow for egress code, we're gonna sign where we can. In the event that TSA enters a portion of the airport that they're not supposed to be entering, what is the airport's practical recourse? Well, really anyone who's entering, I'll just phrase this, a federal agency who enters an unauthorized area of the airport. What is the airport, in all reality, what can the airport do to curtail that?
Yeah, I mean, most federal agencies, we would have direct access to that type of situation. Right now, ICE or any other, at least known to me, association of ICE that does these deportations does not have direct access to these doors. As far as I'm aware, and after our last meeting, I confirmed, we've never given, at least in recent years, any ICE badges to those doors. So a federal agency, if they went through a door that had a badge, our recourse would be to remove them. This is controlled by us. We buy these, we program these, we do everything associated with accessing any of the doors at this airport. Same with TSA. If there was a violation of our airport security plan, doesn't matter which entity is on that list. If there was a violation, there's specific protocols that we do, including removing access, remedial training, potentially suspension of badge. Could be for a week, it could be for longer than that. There's specific reporting that we could do as well, that would not only not allow somebody a badge at this airport, but would also not allow them a badge at any airport for a specific period of time. And that technically could be for anyone that had a badge. If they required access for their duties as a federal agency or as a TSA agency, there would be no recourse that we would have. There's no jurisdiction that we have to fine or a civil penalty or anything like that, unless there was a violation of specifically our airport security plan, which is programmed and guided by federal law.
So in the event that there is an alleged violation of security protocol, how is that investigated, dealt with? Looked into?
Yeah, but by us. We would start the initial investigation. We control 90% of the cameras at this airport, and that would initially be the start of that investigation. Lots of interviews. If it's a federal entity, that investigation would then go to leadership at that federal entity to continue that investigation.
I'm thinking, any commissioners, anything else for Nick?
Actually,
So, oh, yeah, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna ask just an expository question. I've always been curious. Can you walk us through like who actually runs security for the airport? Is it airport staff? Is it BPD? Is it federal agencies?
There's different roles. So my staff does have a role in airport security. And that is, like I said, through the badging program, through our airport security plan, both in this terminal and the perimeter of this airport. We do security patrols. We don't respond necessarily. We're not, or I should say, we're not the first responders, whether it's a medical event or a security event, right? We don't carry handcuffs. We're not trained in that. We are not responding to those security events. We report those security events to those proper channels, whether it's federal or local law enforcement agency. Burlington Police Department is responsible for the security and public policing of this airport, not just in this terminal, but we also ask them to do occasional and continuous perimeter patrols. Then you have the security element and screening element of accessing at a commercial airline. That is in a whole different federal realm, and that's controlled, managed, regulated, and physically implemented by Department of Homeland Security through the Transportation Security Administration. And that is their responsibility to screen passengers and baggage. And there's also an investigatory and a inspection branch, I guess you could say, of that particular Transportation Security Administration to make sure that our airport security plan, I reference that a lot, but that is written by us, approved by the federal government. That plan is then inspected by that same federal government. So there's different branches, both in a screening element as well as an inspection element. And that's not just at this airport. There's even further branches, pilot investigation, there's flight training investigation, there's perimeter investigation. That all is also done by that federal agency.
Cool. Thank you very much. Just curious.
So at this time, we haven't had anybody go through a badge for 50 badge.
That's correct. Yeah.
So
And-
any
and
door that
if-
is an access, it might not be a door that they are supposed to be going through because it's staff, it's restricted, it's whatever, but it's not a badge door.
That's right, and if they did, they were under escort by somebody
So,
that had.
right, so I mean, illegally go through a badge,
Yeah,
like
there's-
a non-badge.
There's never
non-escorted.
anybody that broke any of our security products. Yeah.
I think that's a super important piece.
Yeah. And we. You know, the technology that we have in place is highly sophisticated. We just upgraded it. It has both physical access control as well as biometrics. It has alarm systems and radio signal. There are a lot to this airport security plan, and
Yeah.
obviously that plan is sensitive security information that that not all of it is available to the public, but that plan is in place. For those particular reasons, and none of that has been.
That's a bad word, I would find that very idea there.
Yeah.
It's a very serious subject.
All right, if there's anything else on this topic. We'll move on now to item 9, which is follow-up items. Commissioners, are there any items that we've talked about in today's commission meeting that we would like to add as a follow-up item for our next meeting?
Just a few things that were on there that were pending that Nick talked about, the leases and stuff that are coming up. I assume they're gonna regenerate, but if they don't, they're going to get back fast.
Yeah, those certainly be action
They're
items
gonna be
when that time.
when they come up.
when that time comes.
And I've been trying to program those on the director's report so that you see a little bit of an outlook of what's about to come as well.
I would like to just hear a little bit more, either now or maybe next meeting, about the public transportation at the airport and the comment made around bus access to the airport. It does seem troubling. I feel like it shouldn't be coming within 400 yards, it should be coming right to the door here, and obviously the airport has to control public transportation, but I'd love to see that looked at and if there's anything you can do to help advocate for improvement.
Yeah.
So
It's the city of Burlington.
No,
Southland?
no, well,
CC.
It's GMT.
GMT, which
They
is.
decided they're gonna service this.
Correct, and they are a municipality of themselves, similar to water district and school district areas. So GMT makes those decisions. We've had many conversations with GMT advocating to not end the service at this airport. You know, they have numbers. I don't have their numbers. I don't have their statistics like they do. And the ridership on the airport was very low. And that's, I mean, they made a decision to eliminate that or combine it. We delayed it as much as we could because it was supposed to happen a while back. And
They don't have control over it.
we don't have control. There's other major financial implications with GMT that's happening right now as well. And there's some strategic conversation happening on how can we help? How can other municipalities help? How can the city help? There's also financial challenges all over the place, and financial increases all over the place. So I think the conversation is not over. We have a great relationship with GMT. Unfortunately, we couldn't stop them ending their service at that time.
We don't have any hotel shuttles, right?
Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
So in some other cities that I've been to, what they have done when buses put the service is they have allowed. The very small numbers of people that just wanted to
Yeah.
get like, to Sheraton downtown.
Yeah.
To use that shuttle or to have sort of agreements.
And GMT does, or a branch of GMT does have a service like that, kind of a reservation style service. Where if it wouldn't be like direct to a specific location, but maybe at least from here to the major transport center in downtown Burlington would make a huge difference with connectivity. I forgot what that is, maybe you all know, but I forgot what that program is called.
It's My Ride, the pilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still in a pilot phase though, yeah.
Yeah. And that would be good. Supplementing with funding is also a very big challenge for the airport. It's not like we can supplement a route with bus funding without it being considered as revenue diversion for us. With us supplementing an entity outside of an aeronautical use, the FAA would classify that.
We can only go on a certain area.
Yeah, I mean, Burlington's not alone in this challenge, right? This branch.
No.
Philadelphia's major US city obviously is cut public transport service, but I am curious, and it is obviously quite disappointing.
It is.
And I don't think the small marginal things around parking fees and ride hail, those small changes upwards, it is not gonna move the needle enough for GMT to
To change.
see an immediate impact, right? Maybe taking more, right?
And I haven't even looked at a shuttle service of our own, or can we provide a shuttle service? Obviously, that takes labor and equipment to accomplish that, which would be a planning effort, yeah, if we were to look at that.
That's what I think.
So we said. So with that said, are there any follow-up items to add to next month's? All right, so here we go, that wraps up item 9, move on to item 10, which is adjournment. Do we hear a motion to adjourn? So, let's move by Jack. Second by Andrew, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.